Welcome to the channel. My name is Saul, the creator of the Summoners Nexus TCG, a digital indie trading card game that should hopefully be with you soon. Now, in the lead up to its release, I wanted to share some information about the cards, the design, so on and so forth, to help you get ready for when it is out. Now, today I've got a work in progress build with me, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Damon subset, which is a minor subset of cards. That means that it's a smaller group of cards that is supposed to support larger archetypes. The idea with minor families of cards is that they're supposed to be mixed in with the larger families. That's why they were designed, to support and bolster those archetypes in order to give players more deck building variety. In this game, you have the synergy rating system, and the synergy rating system determines what cards can be put into what deck and still function properly together. Now, the higher the synergy rating of a given card, the less likely it will be able to mix in with other decks, because those decks just won't be able to satisfy its synergy requirements. As a rule, cards from minor subsets will always have a synergy rating of 5 or less to ensure that they can actually be slotted into relevant spaces in your deck list, and this deck, the Damon subset, encapsulates this better than any other deck in the game right now. You see, when coming up with this group of cards, I wanted to try something. I had a thought in my head, which was, okay, well, what is the lowest we could possibly take a deck's synergy rating? And the answer is 2, because that's what synergy is. You have to have at least 2 things synergizing together. Now, you have 10 slots for avatars in any given deck, and let's say you have a card with a synergy rating of 8, well, now there's only 2 slots left for avatars in that deck, and so I wanted to see if there was anything that I could fill into that slot that would be interchangeable enough to be used with those very resource intensive strategies without being too broken with how interchangeable it is. That's when I started coming up with the ideas for the Damon subset, and I love these guys. Have some of my favorite art in the game. I use them for promotional material, all sorts of things, because like it just came out looking very, very clean. And they're from the era when I was looking for assets on the Unity store, licensing them, and then creating art based on those assets. So they do have 3D models that are adjacent to them, but the art is actually quite different from how the models look. When it comes to their stats, they all have 0 attack and 0 defense, and my intention for them was to have them work in pairs. That way you can have the synergy rating of 2 and have it be meaningful, where if you have 2 of them, okay, well, they bounce off of each other. You need one to be with the other in order for it to use its effects. And it doesn't matter which ones you pair up. You can pair up the 2 defense-oriented ones, the 2 attack-oriented ones, or you can mix and match. It's entirely up to you. But my thought process was, okay, you just need to get 2 of them on the field, and boom, you can start doing some crazy stuff with them. Now, the effect was something that I thought was going to be extremely busted, in truth. I thought that this was going to be a very dangerous subset, and so I was quite careful with them during testing and when building them. They used to boost you higher, but I nerfed them to an extent. I made it so that they could boost you to 150 instead of up to 200, which they currently do now because they got buffed again. And the reason why I buffed them again after having nerfed them is that I realized that my game doesn't work the way that I thought it does. And when I say it doesn't work the way that I thought it does, it's more so me saying, what are the words to say this without sounding crazy? Despite having made the game, I don't know everything about it. Like, yeah, I know all the cards, I know all the rules, but certain interactions or the value of certain things is learned through experience with the game rather than through the creation of it. Like, there are mechanics in here that I didn't necessarily intend, or interactions that I didn't necessarily intend because I'm one person. And one of those things is the hand. The thing about the starting hand in this game is that you choose what cards you open with, which, yeah, that's awesome, that's excellent, that's really, really good. But here's the thing about that. That means every single card in your opening hand is precious, and like ridiculously precious. You need to meticulously strategize and decide what you're bringing into each game. Think about it like this. Your opponent is going to be coming with their best stuff, so you want to make sure you also come with your best stuff. You have other cards that you bring into the game as well that are in your resource deck, which is shuffled and you draw at random over the course of the game. And here is where the buddy system that the Damon avatars use ended up actually becoming the biggest hindrance for the deck, which is you need 2 of them together to use their effects. Now, let's say you don't want to have them interrupt your main strategy, the main deck that you're actually playing them with. Well, you put them both in the resource deck. Let's say one turn you draw one of them. That card is completely useless until you randomly draw the second over the course of the game. So you may say, okay, play both of them in your opening hand. Well, that is now 2 of your 5 avatar slots in your opening hand that now no longer get to be used for your main strategy, because again, this is a minor subset. It is just supposed to make your main strategy better, not replace your main strategy. And so even though these cards actually have a really cool effect, they can boost themselves up to like 400 attack or 400 defense every single turn, it's rarely ever worth sacrificing 2 whole slots from your starting hand just to play them, and it's just too inconsistent and too pointless almost, because a turn where you draw a Damon avatar and you don't have the other one feels so bad because your opponent just got a resource that they could use and you didn't. So that makes me really sad, because I thought that they were going to be so good and so strong, and I thought that I was solving a very specific problem, and in hindsight, yes, I was solving a very specific problem, but the way I went about solving it just doesn't really work with the ecosystem or the culture of the game, right? The importance of the opening hand just invalidates this group of cards, unfortunately. I'm sure that when the game comes out, there will be people who love this deck, who appreciate its art style, who just think that the effects are really cool, and maybe even find a niche use case for them. But as of right now, there's just not really much that they're doing, at least in testing that we've seen, because the advantage that you lose out on is too significant. Also, I didn't even tell you all of the cons. You can only summon 3 cards per turn. Now, one Damon avatar on the field by itself, completely useless, which means that you need to use 2 of your 3 summons in a given turn just to use the strategy, which again completely overshadows the main archetype, which you never really want to do. It's not the point of a minor subset. I can see a world in which you have 3 cards from your main strategy turn 1, and then turn 2 you have 2 Damon avatars and something else, and maybe if there's a deck that comes out that only needs 3 cards for its startup, then that could be really, really good together. But until such a time as that, I just don't really see how they're going to get the shine that they deserve. But yeah, those have been the biggest challenges when trying to build and balance this deck, which at first, when it was just a concept in my mind, it's like, oh, this is so strong, they can boost up to 400 every turn, they can boost up to this much every turn, they gain so much advantage, rah 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 rah, and then actually doing it in practice. And that's the difference between theory and practice, right? You can think you can drive a car because you have watched someone do it, but when you actually get behind the wheel, it's a different experience. And this is what that was like, where it's like, oh yeah, I theorized about how it would work, and then I actually played it and I was like, oh, I can't do anything. I either have to sacrifice my main strategy or I just can't do anything. This deck does have another card that's already been designed, a Damon of the 4 Winds that combines all 4 elements, but I decided that it would be an Ascension based card, which is a summoning mechanic that's going to come to the game. I believe is Ascension... No, Ascension is the second mechanic coming to the game. There are 3 summoning mechanics that are going to be in the game, at least that I've foreseen for like the first 6 years of it, which are Combination, followed by Ascension, followed by Contract Summons. And yeah, so I decided that it was going to be an Ascension rather than just a card that exists. Maybe it'll be a combination. I can imagine a situation where you combine the other Damon avatars into him, which could be really, really cool. But that has its own technicalities and issues that we'll get into another day. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate you taking the time. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like, subscribe to the channel for more updates on the game, for more information like this, and overall have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.